Welcome to part one of the program review podcast for Kinesiology 725, program design and kinesiology. This podcast will primarily cover chapter 12, but I will also briefly touch on some material from a couple other chapters. So our objectives for this podcast are to discuss the purposes of program review, also known as program evaluation. In addition, we'll discuss how program review is done using the ABC model. I like this quote out of the textbook: "You can always defend your program better with data-based arguments documented with professionally designed reports than you can with subjective emotional arguments." In the day and ages where physical education is trying to defend physical education, classes, programs at all levels, from kindergarten all the way up through the university level, it's really important that you can defend your own program with data, quality data, that is objective, meaning it's measurable. It's not subjective, meaning it's based on your opinions, but it's quality data that is professionally designed in reports, that is clear to all that are reading it what you're trying to tell them. That is one of the primary purposes of program review or program evaluation. Just as a reminder, in the ABC model, and this has been covered in the past, but it's important to remember that in the ABC model there are 5 components, and each one of these components are intertwined or linked with one another. None of them are really standalone. The program planning is the curriculum development stage that we've been doing a lot of in this class, is actually developing what you're going to teach. One of the things that we're not doing in this class was covered a little bit in the 740 class is how to assess student learning. We're going to see that that's a critical step that we need to take into consideration when we're talking about program review, program evaluation. Then we're going to our component 3 is actually putting a plan into motion, which is implementation of the planning. It's actually doing it, and 4 is teaching it. And then we're at step 5 or component 5, which is the evaluation of the program, evaluation of the curriculum. Did the curriculum work? Just so you know, I'm going to flip-flop some words around. Assessment and evaluation to me are the exact same thing, in my opinion. So I'll probably say student evaluation, student assessment, program review, and program evaluation. They all mean the same thing, just so we're clear on that up front. First, let's talk about student assessment, and this is from chapters 7 and 11 in our textbook. Just want to cover this because I think it's critical, because it is linked with our program review. It's important that we match the assessment to our learning objectives, which are linked to our content, which are linked to our program goals, which are linked to our school and district objectives, which are linked to our national or federal goals. Really what we're trying to do with student assessment is to objectively and without bias determine if a student has actually learned the objectives that we have developed for our program. So our assessment should be mostly measurable or objective. What I mean by that, I'm one of those physical education people that don't think that students should get majority of their points for just dressing out to go to PE classes. To me, that's downgrading physical education. I think you need to develop assessment procedures to determine if students are meeting the objectives of your lessons. Have they made quality improvements? You may have to do, in the textbook, they talk about pre-assessment. have them do the skill before you teach, do the teaching, then measure them afterwards. That's post-assessment. All those types of measurements should be objective based, it should be measurable, it should be and the next bullet I have there is should be a valid and reliable measure of student learning. Um, those of you who have taken tests or measurements as an undergrad student understand that valid and reliable. Valid means it actually measures what it's supposed to measure. If you say you're going to measure vertical jump, make sure that the test that you're using actually measures vertical jump. Then the other part of our assessment is it should be a reliable measure of student learning. Reliability means that you use it over and over and over again, you'll get the same numbers on that test or assessment or whatever you're using. So it needs to be valid and reliable, needs to be objective, needs to be measurable when you're assessing student learning. The other thing with, some teachers have classes of 30 or 40, 50 or more students. It needs to be easy to assess student performance with a whole bunch of students. So we have to take that into consideration when you're developing your student assessment. And the other thing that's, I think it's critical, if you have a very big program, you need to make sure that all the teachers are using those assessment tools, so you have uniformity across your program and make sure that all the teachers are using it the same way. It's very critical with student assessment. There's some other things that are critical with assessment too, is things are called formative and summative assessment. And I believe this was also covered in the Kinesiology 740 class. The purpose of doing these things is that we know that student evaluation should be a continuous process. It's not just one time. We do it more than once and multiple different times. And there's two main types of evaluation. One type is called formative evaluation, and then the other type is summative evaluation. And you should see this in our own graduate program as both of these types of evaluation. In any academic program you should see these. Okay, so formative evaluation takes place throughout the instructional period. We just don't do it once. We measure learning multiple places at multiple times. In our graduate program, this will be the different learning activities that we may have. It can be the discussion boards. Want to see if you're learning through various opportunities to give you to learn or to test your learning. And the other thing that formative evaluation does is to formulate and revise objectives or techniques. I've made multiple changes in this graduate program because I've seen that some of the things I was trying to do just didn't work. So it gives us an idea of what works, what doesn't work, for us teachers to make us better teachers, but it also to see if the objectives are the right objectives for the age group and those type of things. It also emphasizes the guidance of the learning process. Learning is a process. We want our students throughout the year to learn different things, and in our curriculum we develop those things that we're trying to hit, and we want to make sure that students are on step to meet those program goals that we have established. Then our summative evaluation, sum in math means the total when we add things up, so we have the big picture type evaluation, and this happens on the completion of the instructional period. This would be more for looking at how all students did at the end of a period, class period, or a program. We want to look across all the students and see how everybody did, and see how if our program goals were met, if the objectives are met. Again, we direct that it's directed towards the sum total of results. We're not just looking at individual students, we're looking at all students. And again, we're looking to see if students are actually meeting our program objectives or goals. And I'll give you how we do this in our graduate program. Our signature assignments are both formative and summative evaluation. For each um, signature assignment, you turn those into live text. The faculty member assesses your learning in two different ways. They actually have a rubric for that particular assignment, but there should be also rubrics for the program desired student outcome level assessment taking place on that. You may not necessarily see some of that data, but I use that data as a program director to compare each class to one another. I can evaluate the faculty members on how they assess student learning, and then I can make decisions on how to make the program better. Getting a little ahead of myself here. So let's look at the difference between student evaluation versus program evaluation and program review. Student evaluation, again, data is used to compare an individual student's performance to specific criteria. So student A, how student A do on learning objective A. Whereas in program evaluation or review, data is used to compare the entire class grade level or program performance to the program goals. We can use the term either content, but typically it's going to be that program goal that you have written in your curriculum. How are the students as a whole meeting those program goals? So again, student level is individual students, whereas program level is you're comparing the entire class grade level or the whole program to your program goals. So why do we do program review? If I was in the face-to-face class, I'd open that up and we'd have a discussion about it, but since we're not, I'll just have to tell you. So Kelly and Melograno stated that program review is the process of determining and communicating program merit and areas that need to be reviewed for potential revisions. So the first one is program merit. Why is this a good program? Why should we still continue it? What are we doing well with it? What can we improve on? That's the potential revisions. How can we make it better? You're really justifying your program. And Jewett, Bain, and Ennis in '95 said that program review is to make program improvement, just to make it better. We have a few more additional purposes why we do program review, is we want to document the validity and importance of expectations, our goals, and objectives of the program. We want to show that our students are meeting those, and we want to show how important those are. We also want to document the way in which the program is being implemented. We said we have this curriculum, and now we're showing that it's actually been implemented in this method. Program review also determines the effectiveness of program on participants. Are the students actually learning what we hope for them to learn? Is it effective? Are the teachers being effective? Is the curriculum being effective? In addition, it provides information-based recommendations for revisions necessary to reduce identified weakness. Again, it's not based on, I think this is what's going on. We have data-based information that's telling us for sure this is what's happening, this is what the data is telling us, let's make these changes so we can make our program better. So it's not weak, it's a strong program. I believe the textbook does a good job in developing a program review process. The thing with it is we know the different components are linked to one another. In order to do the program review process, you need to develop your assessment sheets as described in chapters 7 and 11. And it's from those student assessment sheets you're going to use that data to do your program review. The really critical point of all this is that the program review must be data driven and not opinion based. Use hard data to prove that your program is being successful or not successful. It's not if all your students dressed out. It's Did they meet the learning objectives, specific learning objectives, and you assess that student learning. So you need to develop quality assessment and grading instruments. Again, that's in chapters 7 and 11. What it basically boils down to in the ABC model for the program review is to answer 3 questions. This is on page 267 and the preceding pages. The questions are, is the program producing the desired results? Is the program being implemented as intended? Is the program plan appropriate? And we're going to look at each one of these in a little bit more detail now. First question, is the program producing the desired results? This is typically done, it can be done at the student level, but the textbook suggests that it's better if it's done at the district level. The assumption here is that all the schools in the district are using the same assessment tools, that you have a district-wide curriculum, and all the teachers are using the same objectives, the same program goals throughout the district. And so those are the assumptions here. Okay, we're just going to make the assumption that that's what we're talking about here. If not, you do it at the school level. Okay, we want to know if the students are actually learning our objectives and our goals. And if you look on page 268 of your book, you'll see that on figure 12.4 we have the ABC school district's physical education evaluation report. And this is the average percentage mastery by grade and program objective. And with this report, we can clearly identify which objectives students are mastering and which ones they're not. And on the chart there, the highlighted boxes are the mastery targets that students should reach. And the target for this district is that greater than 90% of the students have shown to master the particular target objectives at the end of the appropriate grade range. Now, on the SKIP objective, grade 2, only 55% of the students met the mastery level, so they have a lower rate there. They didn't meet the objective for that. Why didn't those students meet that objective? And so you have to answer that question. You got to figure out why they didn't. If you look at the next page on 269 at figure 12.5, what this chart is, it's multiple teachers by one objective. So you have a class data for one objective for many different teachers. So if you look at the table, you have all the different teachers. You have they did a pre-test, so the class mean entry for each one of these teachers, and the objective here is forehand tennis stroke. Class average, target average, class mean target average. Then the class mean exit is what, when they finished the lesson, retested them, and then what was their scores by teacher. Class mean gain, how much did they improve? Percentage class meeting target. The lowest one there is going to be by Kowalski. Mastery criteria is 7, and percentage of class meeting to mastery about half. And then teacher Brennan had a really low class average, percent mastery, and this kind of tells you how all the teachers in the program, how they did in that one particular objective. And you can look at all the different objectives by using this data. And again, this district level. Next question to look at is the program being implemented as intended? This is done by each teacher or it can be done at the grade or program level. If it's done by the teacher level, you want to identify, or ID, areas where students are not progressing and determine why they're not progressing. Now at the program or grade level, you identify larger program problems with several teachers to resolve the problem. Now like, the thing is, at the teacher level, you want to blame the students. It ain't my fault, it's the students. That may be true, but we need to also look at what we're doing as teachers to make sure it's not just the students' fault, but it's also, do we take some responsibility in that too, as teachers. So we need to determine who is not progressing and figure out why they're not progressing. Now on page, page 266, you'll see figure 12.2. We need to review the class evaluation report and analyze what the data says. And so if you look at this objective, this is a grade report for the different objectives. And the one we want to point out, that the textbook points out, is the tennis serve. If you look at that one, has the lowest percentage of class meeting the target at a little over 78%. And the percentage of class meeting the mastery only at 60%. And so, for whatever reason, the tennis serve had the lowest score in that class. So you got to figure out how that can be fixed, and what was going on there. Then what you want to do is go back a couple pages to page 264 to figure 12.1, and that's the actual grading sheet for the tennis overhead serve, which is the lower one for in the table, or the figure 12.2 of the tennis serve, and figure out which you can learn, review the student assessment, and see if you can figure out what the problem was. Sometimes it might be helpful to be journaling during the school year so you can remember things, so at the end of the year you can review all the material. The point again is to figure out what happened, why the students did not meet the mastery level that you had set up. Was it the student? Was it the curriculum? Was it the teacher? What was the problem? And our last question that we want to answer is the program plan appropriate? Is our curriculum good? Does it work? This is done as a program review committee. You can have all the teachers or just a representation of the teachers in the program. Again, is the program working? That's what we're really asking here. The critical thing is we want to use data. We don't want to just use our opinions. We want to use hard data, the data that shows us the big picture. The big picture is is it working? Now with computers, a lot of stuff can be done on computers, and so we really can do a lot of this stuff with Excel and some other spreadsheets. And some people are just gifted with a lot of stuff, so allow those people who have the strengths and the gifts in these type of areas to allow them to do that, because that's what they're good at. Now if you look at page 273, figure 12.7, this is data of how all students in 8th grade performed on the objectives. And so this gives us a whole bunch of good data to tell us how all the students in that 8th grade, which in this one there's 232 students, all the teachers, so this is all the teachers' data pushed into one worksheet, and it gives us our pre-measures on a class mean entry, class target, where we want them on all these different objectives, the exit, the post-assessment, how much they gained, what percentage of class met the targets for the 8th grade class. Most of them, the lowest score was a 96.61 in the knowledge of rules test, mastery criteria, and they give the criteria and how much percentage of the students made that criteria, and the lower one again is the knowledge of rules test, and the average class average percentage mastery, and again that one's the lowest one. So we probably need to spend more time on the cognitive end of things in our classes. I mean, we're not doing as much teaching on the rules as we should. Another thing I think it's kind of helpful is the end of instruction objective evaluation worksheets, and that's on page 275. It's a nice worksheet. You have each teacher for each objective fill out the worksheet, and it gives you some more, it's called qualitative data, which is not numbers, it's words to help you understand what's working, what's not working from the teacher's viewpoint, to get more feedback, to make recommendations for improvement, what things worked, what didn't work, and all those type of things. The critical thing here is the program review data should be reported annually. Should be done every single year after this school year is done. You need to document your needs, record any changes that you made or will make, what kind of improvements can you make, report your successes, partial successes, and always you want to justify your program. Who knows, one day it just may save your job. If they want to cut your program because we don't have the money for it, you can show the success of your program over the years. And the other thing, it's always nice to have, if students have positive things to say about your program, those are always nice to have in those reports also. This portion of the podcast is done. I have another part 2 of this podcast that will discuss what you actually need to turn in for your curriculum development project.